Hello, this is Pastor Mahlon Smith here at New Hope Baptist Church here in Watertown, New York. And our vision is living life together to bring new hope in Jesus to all people. I welcome you to today's video where we're going to talk a little bit about the tabernacle. Now, we have been looking at Genesis, Exodus, and Leviticus. And in those videos, you have probably heard me make reference to the tabernacle. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what the tabernacle is all about. Now, in Exodus chapters 25 to 40, as well as the first 12 chapters of the book of Leviticus, we see mention made to the worship center of the Hebrews, which would become the nation of Israel, the tabernacle. It was to be a mobile worship center, whereby as the people of God would begin to make their journeys through the wilderness wanderings that we will be seeing in the book of Numbers, they would be worshiping God wherever they camped through the tabernacle system. Matter of fact, wherever they camped, wherever they settled, that tabernacle would be at the center of their life. And of course, by this point, the nation of Israel had become 12 tribes of Israel, and so there would be various tribes situated on each side of the tabernacle, with the tabernacle at the center. And the whole point of the tabernacle was to communicate, among other things, that God was at the center of their lives. Now, what I have up here is a diagram of the tabernacle. If we were looking at the tabernacle from up top, and if we were able to peer inside and peer through it, this is roughly what we would see. And again, you can find the description of the tabernacle revealed in Exodus chapters 20 to 40, as well as its function in Leviticus chapters 1 through 12. Now, when we think about the tabernacle, by the way, the word tabernacle comes from a Latin word, tabernaculum, which simply means meeting place. So, what would happen, you as a worshiper would enter in through the eastern gate, the main gate. And you would be met by priests here at the brazen altar. This was where the priests would make all the various sacrifices on your behalf, you being the worshiper. Now, here's what had to happen. You would bring the firstling of your flock. You would bring the best. You would bring sacrifices without blemish. And then that priest would meet you here. And then what he would do, he would hand you a knife. And you would lay your hands upon the back of that animal. And you would confess your sins. You would slit the throat. And that priest would capture the blood in a bowl. And then from that point onward, he would pour the blood around the brazen altar and offer up the sacrifice to God. And this was designed to picture and to remind the people of God that there had to be the shedding of innocent blood on their behalf, as well as the fact that it's through the blood that they could continue to enjoy fellowship with God. Now, from this point onward, the worshipers were not allowed to go, and so the priests would continue their ministry. Now, of course, as you were sacrificing animals, you would get dirty. And so you would have to wash your hands. And so there was what we called the brazen laver. It was a wash basin. And so this is where the priests would wash their hands. And then as the priests would continue on in their daily ministry routine, they would enter into what we call the tabernacle proper. This whole entire area being the courtyard of the tabernacle. This being the tabernacle proper. Now, if you were to go inside, you would have two main rooms. You would have what's called the holy place, and then the most holy place, or the Holy of Holies. Now, the priests, after they had washed their hands in the brazen laver, they would then enter in, and if you were to look to your left, you would see the golden lampstand. And they were to continually keep that lit day and night. To your right would be the table of showbread. As a priest serving in the tabernacle, you would get hungry during your day. And so there would always be fresh bread, would most likely be unleavened bread or cakes that would be kept on the table of showbread. And they would, well, for our purposes, look like pancakes stacked on top of one another. And so that's what the priests would eat every day. And then what they would do, they would have fire or coals from off of the brazen altar. And they would take that in censers, as they call them. And then they would pour the heat onto this altar of incense. And of course, there were various types of utensils that were kept here at the table of showbread. and then they would offer up incense to God, and that's where they did their prayers. Now, there was one time a year where the nation of Israel would confess their sins to God. It's called by the Hebrew people Yom Kippur, or the Day of Atonement. And what the high priest of Israel would do once a year, he would enter into the most holy place. This is where the Ark of the Covenant was at. This is where the very presence of God dwelt. Now, on top of the Ark of the Covenant, and the Ark of the Covenant was a box that was 2 foot by 2 foot by 3 foot in its dimensions, and it was overlaid with gold. And on top of that Ark of the Covenant was this lid called the mercy seat. And on top of that lid, it was made of pure gold with 2 angels with their wings facing one another. And this particular object was to represent the holy presence of God. And then what the high priest would do, he would take the blood of a goat, he would bring it in before that mercy seat, he would sprinkle that mercy seat, that lid, on top of the Ark of the Covenant 7 times. And in effect, what that would do, that would cleanse the entire system whereby the people of God did their fellowship and worship to God. And so what we see here, we see the tabernacle, the center of spiritual life here for the Hebrew people as they were making their way through the desert wanderings in the desert wilderness. Now, what is the whole point of this? In other words, why be so excited about the tabernacle? Well, here's why. The tabernacle pictures Jesus Christ. We read in John chapter 1, verse 14, "And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld His glory, the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth." Now, in John 1:14, when John uses the word dwelt, that particular Greek word is translated and is found in the Greek version of the Old Testament at the end of the book of Exodus. And guess what? It speaks of tabernacling. Yes, Jesus Christ, as the second person of the Trinity, being fully God, when He came to this world, He tabernacled Himself for our sakes by becoming flesh and blood and bone, becoming a man. Thus, Jesus Christ, truly God, being also truly man, He came to be a tabernacle for our sakes. But there's something else I want to show you about this tabernacle. In that, if you'll notice the arrangement of all the various pieces of furniture that are associated with the tabernacle, they form a cross. Now, I've got a red marker here. Now, just watch what happens. If I draw a line from the brazen altar to the brazen laver, to the altar of incense, to the Ark of the Covenant, I have a vertical line. And this reminds us of the fact that through Jesus Christ, He is the way, the truth, and the life. And then if I draw another line from the table of showbread to the golden lampstand, that reminds us of the fact that Jesus Christ is the light of the world and He's the bread of life. Now, do you catch here, I don't know if you can see it on your video or not, but this red line here and this red line here forms a cross. And that's exactly the arrangement of the tabernacle as it was revealed to Moses and the Hebrews some 1,450 years before Christ came. That is not accidental, dear friend. That was providentially arranged by God because God had a plan that He was going to send Jesus Christ to tabernacle Himself as a man. And so that's a little bit about the tabernacle, and I pray that this has been an encouragement to you today, and may God richly bless you. And thank you for joining us.